All right, I started recording. MBA 833, Quantitative Methods for Management by Prestige Tutors. We have centers in Lagos, also in Ibadan. Our center in Lagos is at Ikosi High School, Ikosi K2, beside the big Anglican Church, or State Anglican Church, towards 7 Up. While also our Ibadan center is at Anglican Commercial Grammar School, which is at Agodi, Ibadan. As many that are around Ibadan, you can also visit our Ibadan center for the tutorial. Our email address, we have it on the screen, prestigetutors2016@gmail.com. So also our contact address. So that's just a general information for every one of us. And we have our...
Can you please speak up, sir? We can hardly hear you.
All right. It's what we have on the screen that I'm just reading out. That means our centers, our email address, and our contact number. Then you can have access to us. So that is what I've just read that. Can you get that, please? All right. If you look at transportation model, like every other model we have in management sciences, we have a linear programming assignment model. We have a clean theory, it's also a model. We have a games theory. Transportation model is what we are going to do in this semester. Why, when you get to second semester, they will also introduce some models also that you need. Now, if you look at this transportation model, here we are using the lecturer's material so that we don't want to deviate from what we have in the class. So we're making use of the material given in class, while we also have our own sheet where we are going to do our own separate calculation apart from what they have in class. So now is a network flow problem, and the objective of this topic is either to maximize or to minimize. And you can minimize your cost. You can also what? Maximize your profits. So in the sense where the question is telling you to minimize cost, there's a formula where you are talking about cost minimization, or you can minimize your loss. You can also minimize your time. But when they talk about maximization, they are telling you, okay, you want to maximize your profits. You want to maximize your potentials. You want to maximize your what? Your income or whatever. So that is maximization. So you can either what? Minimize your cost, which is what we have here. Minimization of cost. Then you can also maximize your profit using this transportation model. So it depends on the question you are giving in the exam that you have to whether minimize, but the question will definitely put a pointer. Whether they tell you, okay, there's a production and they want to calculate the profits, or advise the management of the profit, or the time to spend on a project. When you hear the time, even every reasonable or rational manager will always want to minimize the time of doing a project, but want to what? Maximize the profit. So it can be used when a firm is trying to decide where to locate a new factory. I saw a question on the assignment given by the professor. I think the importance of quantitative techniques or something like that. You can also get the answer from this material. If you want to locate a new facility, you can use transportation. You don't want your facility or your production site to be far from the market. I believe in secondary school we did something they call a location of industry, the localization of industry. Location is talking about proximity to the market. How close are you to your immediate market? So transportation model can also be used because you don't want to travel from here to maybe long distance to meet your customer, especially if you have a perishable goods to supply. So you want to look at the cost of transportation of getting to your customer. So you can use this model. So you can see that's a big answer to the question in class. So you can also take this as answer to the assignment. Now, why do we need this transportation model? What are the information that we need to use? Now, in the exam or in whatever test they will give you, there's need for you to have the list of origins. Then we have the list of your what? Destinations. We have supply, we have demand. So whatever you think you want to supply, then there must be the other end of it, which is the demand. Whatever you are demanding, there should be something in mind or a supply in mind, a supplier that we need to get to meet your demand. So they will give you the list of origins and the corresponding capacity. Capacity is very, very important. Here we are talking about quantity. We are talking about quantity of what you need. Destinations, there's also what? A quantity demanded for the period. So they will be telling you about quantity of what you need. Also, there's a unit cost attached to everything. There will be a unit cost. What you want to buy, the person you want to sell. How much are you willing to sell? How much are you willing to buy? So there will be a what? A unit cost attached to everything. So a question in exam will give you this. They will tell you the quantity, in total at the supply end, the quantity at the demand end. Then they will also give you information as regards the unit cost of transporting from one point to the other. I believe you want to even move from your house tomorrow, there's also a cost. So there's a destination, there's leaving is either your origin is from Sele, or you are taking the bus from that is the origin. And the destination is tomorrow. And they will give you the cost. That okay, to get from here tomorrow, this is the cost. Assumptions of now, please, I need you to open your mind. In this topic, what the lecturers, what they do, because we also pass through this. Our tutors, they've all gone through this MBA program. Well, some of them are even a lecturer. Some of them are lecturers, why some are even doing well, some chartered accountants, they are lecturing even ICANN class. Now, items to be cheap are homogeneous. That means they are the same regardless of their source or destination. You have to keep that in mind. The lecturers want to ask for both theory and what? The calculation aspects. If you have gone through the past question, you can ask you what is the example of transportation model. You must be able to use it. Those don't only focus on the calculations. You must also focus on this.
Sorry, lecturer. Someone's mic is on, and we can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
Yeah, Emmanuel, his mic is on. I think he's in the kitchen.
Can you hear me now?
It's better.
Okay. Now, the item to be cheap are homogeneous. That means they are the same, regardless of their source, that is origin or destination. The bus taking you to Moro is taking, if you have 20 buses on the road, they are taking what? Student personnel. None of them is carrying animal. None of them is carrying maybe bags of tomatoes or whatever. So they are homogeneous. That means they are the same. The shipping cost per unit on a route is the same throughout that route, regardless of the number. This means if you are moving from Lagos to Abeokuta, the cost will be what? It will be the same. The shipping cost will be the same. But the question will give you all this in the exam. The question will give you all this. But all you need to know is the assumptions, as we are talking about, that the assumptions may be asked in exam. You need to know the assumptions for you to be able to answer the question. By the time you get to the calculation proper, all these assumptions will be there. Now, there's only one route or mode of transportation. Only one route. That means every one of us is going through Lagos, Ibadan. You know, you can go through Ikorodu Road, get to Ijebu-Ode while going to Ibadan. But one of the assumptions of the transportation model is that you have only what? One route or mode of transportation. You cannot say you are going by road, another person say you are going to by air. You are not comparing the cost. It won't be the same cost. But we assume what? You have the same what? Mode of transportation and only one route for us to be able to say, okay, we are playing on the same level ground. No one is having a undue advantage over the other. Let's move further. Then we have major steps in solving transportation model. The number one thing here is what? Ensure the problem is balanced. That means the total supply is equal to total demand. It's very, very key. Please ensure before you use any formula, what you are solving is what? A balanced problem. The total supply is equal to total demand. Please, if there is unbalanced question, you need to balance it before you move ahead. And how do you balance? The lecturer has already told us you need to introduce what we call a dummy demand or dummy supply. A dummy demand or a dummy supply where you have the shortfall. Please, that is the first thing you need to do. You can know the steps, you can know the formula to use, but if you are not mindful of the kind of question you are solving, whether it is balance or balance, you get to the middle of the road and you get back that, oh, there's something missing. So please, it's very, very important. First, identify whether you have a balance or unbalance. Compare the total supply to the total demand. If the two are equal, you have a balanced problem to solve. Step 2 tells us what? We should use northwest corner, greedy method, or VAM. VAM is Vogel Approximation method. Northwest corner, there we have greedy method. Greedy method is talking about lowest cost. That is talking about your what? Lowest or least cost. I will say lowest or least cost. That is what greedy is talking about. Why the VAM is talking about Vogel approximation. You can see they say greedy method or VAM. That means if you use either of the two, you have the same answer. Anyway, there's a caveat there. It depends on the structure of the question. The lecturer can ask you to use least method, at the same time use VAM. And you may not get the same answer. It depends on the question. That is to test for what we call initial solution.
Afternoon, sir.
Any question, please? Any question before we proceed?
Please go on, sir.
Oh, all right, thank you. Thank you for that. Now, all this, for every question that will be given, we have what we call initial solution. Then we have what we call optimal solution. Now, the initial solution we are talking about, or initial allocation, you have to test for initial allocation using any of these step 2, any method in step 2. You can use northwest corner, you can use greedy method, or VAM, Vogel approximation. That is to test for initial solution or initial allocation. Then the question can tell you to proceed further to do what we call optimal solution. That means to test for what? Optimality. Initial solution will give you a particular cost or a particular profit. The optimal solution is telling you that is it possible to reduce this cost further? Is it possible? Using what we call stepping stone or modified distribution method, MODI. Now, the lecturer, the material we have talked about stepping stone method, or they call it in some textbooks, they call it stepping stone algorithm. Or we have modified distribution method. But for this class, we are only staying with stepping stone. And if you I've gone through the past questions. You'll see that, okay, they use stepping stone all through. The question can come in two ways. The lecturer can give you a question telling you to use all the methods in step 2. Or the lecturer can tell you, use one of these methods in step 2, then proceed to test for optimality using stepping stone method. But there's no way you can run from the question in exam. You always test this and test the below, even the past class. Now, let's go to the real example, which are all going to work together. Example 1. RCC produces cement packaged in bags in 3 factories and transport them to 4 project sites as shown below. We say part of the things they are going to give us, they are going to give us destination, and they are going to give us where. They are going to also give us origin. Can you see they have told us the factories? We have 3 factories, we have 4 project sites. And they must tell us the quantity also. Now, they've stated the quantity out. Please mute your mic, please. Now, if you look at the facility, from the factory, we have factory ABC. They've given us the quantity from this factory. That is from the supply, 100, 200, 150. While for the project site, which is the demand aspect, we have W demands 80 bags, X 90 bags, Y 120 bags, Z we have 160 bags. I will say something. If you can look at the steps mentioned earlier, we have to determine if we have a balanced problem. The supply equal to the demand. From here now, can we determine whether if the supply is equal to the demand? What will this what will the total?
Please, can we all mute our mics, please? Yinka Labi, please mute your mic.
Thank you for that. Now, if you look at the factory, the capacity, if you add the capacity together, 100 plus 200 plus 150, it gives 450. If you add the demand side together, 80 plus 90 plus 120 plus 160, that will also give 450. At this point, that is the step number 1. That means we have a balanced problem at hand. There's no need of introducing a dummy set, a dummy demand or a dummy supply. Step 2 says we should do initial allocation using northwest corner, greedy method, or Vogel method. Now, let's go and look at that. Don't forget, we said after giving us the source and the destination, the quantity at the source and destination, they will also give us the unit price. They will also give us the unit price. Now, let's go and see the unit price. I think the unit price is down. All right, look at the unit price here. To move from factory A to project site W, it will cost 4 naira. This is the cost. That means you need the cost to also determine. Don't forget, the assumption says what? The costs are what? The same. So from moving from A to Z, from A to Y, from B to W, from C to Y, we have the cost. So please, we have to keep this also in mind. Hello, are you still there? Thank you very much for that. All right, let's make use of least cost method first. Now we have information regarding the quantity at each side, at the supply and the demand side. And we also confirm that we have a balance problem, and that is the 450. And they've also given us the cost to move from each source to each destination. Now, using least cost method, from this table, what is the least cost? Please, someone to tell us the least cost. Please, what's the least cost again?
₦1.
₦1. And
Under Z.
And A. So under the supply is A. Under the demand, you have what? Z. Now, you have identified that. Then the next least cost will be 3 down to 4 to 5 to 7, like that. Now, please keep this in mind. Once you have made your allocation to a particular cell, and you have exhausted all the demand or supply in that cell, whatever costs that you are yet to allocate are what? The costs are irrelevant. What do I mean by this? If you have made allocation to this cell, and this A has nothing to supply again, this 7 naira, and 4 naira under AW, AX, AY, they are what? Irrelevant to our decision again. The reason is this. If this supplier A said, okay, I want to supply 100, and someone has come to demand that 100, that means you have sold everything. If a customer should walk into your store, that please, I need maybe 10 bags of cement or whatever, you have exhausted what you have. At that point, whether the person wants to offer 4 naira or 7 naira or whatever, it's not relevant again, because at that point, you don't have anything to sell. Please, that is key. Another thing, before you make your allocation, we have identified this spot as what? The least cost. Having identified that 1 naira as the least cost, we have supply of 100, and we have the demand of 160. For you to make allocation, which of this quantity is lower? Please tell me which of the quantity is lower. Hello, which of the quantity? The supply, which is the 100. Always allocate the lower quantity. That means we are comparing 100 and 160. So we have agreed the law says we should allocate the lower quantity, which is the 100 in this question. That means we are allocating 100. Now, we have allocated 100. If you look at it, this A has 100 to supply. He has supplied the 100. That means there's nothing to supply again. Meanwhile, the project site Z that came to request for the 100 needed 160. But he has seen 100. What is he looking for?
60.
60. Don't
60.
forget this 100 is out, right? 0. So that means still looking for where to buy 60. That means you cannot close this BZ, CZ, because we are still looking for quantity of 60. Then that takes us to the next least cost. What is the next least cost?
3.
Okay, we have it under BX. Please, are we all following this, please?
Yes, sir. We are following.
This place.
All right, we have it under BX. The quantity under B is 200, while under X is 90. Which quantity is he going to get?
90.
Is going to get 90, which is the lower quantity, is get 90. That means this person has nothing to demand again. But the supply, he has supplied 90 out of 200. What does he have left?
110.
110. What is the next least cost?
Five.
Now, the next
4
least cost
naira.
after 3 is supposed to be 4 naira. But you can look at the 4 naira, it's already gone with this what allocation, so it's irrelevant again. So what is the next least cost? Since 4 is not relevant.
5.
5. Can you see the 5 under CZ? The quantity is 150. The demand is 60, while the supply is 150. What is he going to get?
60.
So he gets 60. This is out. Now, here, what will be the balance? What will be the balance here?
90.
90. So that means still need someone to sell 92. What is the next least cost after the 5?
8.
8. But it was supposed to be 7. But because it's gone already, not relevant, then we are left with 8. How many 8 do we have in this table?
3.
2.
We have under BY, BZ, then CW. Now that means we have a tie. How do we break this tie? Now this is how to break the tie. If you have a tie in a question like this, you look at the, you have 8, 8. Now you look at the 8 that gives the, where you can do the highest was supply. If you look at BY, the 8 under BY, what can you supply? If someone asks you to supply, you can supply 110, right? Don't forget, this is out, please. It's very, very important. Anyone that do have anything business with, cross it out immediately. Please cross it out immediately. Now we have BYCW, right? 8, 8. The quantity to supply on.
Hello. Sorry, I have a question.
All right.
Okay, I want to know why you just crossed the 8 under BZ. I didn't get that. Sorry.
No, you know, we made the allocation to when we did, we identified 3 as our least cost. We made the allocation, we compared BX, the quantity under B1 200, while under X, the quantity is what? 90. Right? Are you there, please? The person that has the question.
Yes, I'm with you.
All right, we allocated 90. So that means that's why we crossed out all the other items under X. Why under B, we have made allocation of 90 out of 200. We have 110 left. Then we went to look at the next least cost, which gives us what? 5. Under the 5, that means the 5 is under CZ.
Yes.
Now, the quantity under demand is 60. While the quantity under the supply is 150.
Yes.
We made 60 allocation. Once we made that 60, that means the Z, the 60 we had left, we have made allocation. That means that 60 is 0.
Yes.
Do you understand now?
Okay.
So we have to immediately cross it out, which we didn't.
Okay.
Do. So I have to quickly cross it out so that, you know, we now say we had 3 8. Meanwhile, we have only 2 because we didn't put down one earlier.
Thank you.
Now that takes us to 2 8, BY and CW. How do we break the tie here? If you look at the quantity under B, we have 110. We have the opportunity of supplying 110. Why the CW, the 8 under it, you have the opportunity of supply 90. So if you have a tie there, this is the rule. Identify the cell where you can quickly supply the higher figure. Are you there?
Yes.
So you will have opportunity of supplying 110 under B at 8 naira. Under the C, you have opportunity of supplying 90 bags at 8 naira. In the losses, immediately you say what? The one that you have the higher quantity to supply, which is the what? The BY, the 110. So that means you are going to pick the 8 under BY first. Any question?
Go ahead, sir.
All right. In the case where you have the same quantity, for instance, if you have 90-90 or 110-110 under the here and here, in the case where you have the same quantity, take either of the 8. Because at that point, they have the same. But here, we have to pick the one with the higher quantity to supply, which is BY. BY, that means you are taking this. What is the demand? Demand is 120. The supply is 110. What do we pick?
110. 110. Monsurat, please mute your mic.
So once you have 110, that means you have, if you look at 110 plus 90, that is 200. This 110 is out. We have nothing to supply. This person has nothing again. We are crossing that. Meanwhile, the person that bought the project side Y demanded for 120, but he said, I have only 110. So that means he's still looking for who to buy how many from? 10. It's looking for who to buy the 10 from, which is the balance. Then the next least cost, don't forget we have 2 8, we have picked 1. This is the next one. The quantity under C is 90. Under the demand is 80. What are we going to supply?
Supply the 80.
There's the 80. This is out. And this is what? 10 as balance. What is the next least cost after this? 8 is gone. It's supposed to be 10. 10 is gone. It's supposed to be 12. 12 is gone. We are left with what? 16. We are left with 16. If you look at this 16, what is this demand? What is the supply? The supply is 10. The demand is 10. We have no choice but to allocate that 10 because they are the same. 0. Please, Adimora, mute your mic. So that means we have made all the allocation.
Could you please mute your mic?
All right, thank you. Now, we have made all the allocations. There's nothing left. In case where before you started all this, you didn't check whether you have a balance or unbalanced question. This is where you are going to check. Now, that means where we have 0-0 allocation, we have made all the allocations. A cell will still be standing. That means you have an outstanding cell. Meanwhile, you have done all the allocations. That means you ought to have introduced a dummy cell to take that outstanding quantity. For instance, we had 10 as demand. We had 10 as supply. So that means we are able to easily allocate 10. But in case where we have 15 in supply and demand is only 10, fine, you are going to allocate the lower one, which is the 10. And there's no more cell to allocate to accommodate the remaining 5. At that point, you know that, you ought to have balanced this question before you start solving. Then you now go back to the beginning. That is why they said the first step is to do what? The first step is for you to identify whether what you have is what? A balanced problem, which we did first. So we have seen that we have a balanced problem. We have gone ahead to what? To balance it, and we are solved. Now, what is the next thing here? The next thing for us to do is to write out all the allocations, one after the other, because the end product is for us to calculate the cost of transporting all these our goods. Any question, please?
Yes, sir. I want to call your attention to this is unbalanced at this particular level. Now, how are we going to balance it before doing the allocation? Assuming the demand and the supply is not balanced, like this one, we have 450, 450. How are we going to balance it before we start the allocation?
All right, we'll get to that. You know, in the material, they say we are going to what? Introduce a dummy demand or a dummy sell. You first identify where you have the shortfall. Your total demand can be 450, while your total supply is 500. That means demand, the shortfall is from the demand. So you locate where you have your demand sell. You introduce a dummy sell. That means a dummy demand. That dummy demand, the cost will be what? 0, 0. All this, they gave us the cost. But in that way, there will be no cost. You just allocate 0 as the cost. So whatever quantity you put to that particular dummy cell, it will be 0 times that quantity. You still get what? 0 cost. I always use this analogy. For instance, someone who has you want to run with someone with a single leg instead of 2. One leg, I want to run with the person. And that's okay. For this person to run with you, the person must have what? Must balance up. That means the person needs to get a second leg to be able to run with you. So that means you need to balance the person first before they will allow the person to run along with you. I believe there's this South African guy that went to the Olympics, I think London, or they won the Usain Bolt went last. A South African guy that wants say, okay, I want to run with the other guys. He said, you have only one leg. Okay, for you to be able to run with them, then you need to go and do surgery. Get the second leg available. Don't forget, the second leg will not be a natural leg. Like the case of you introducing a dummy. So you cannot say because you have introduced a dummy, you now put a cost that is more than 0. No. That's why you need to put what 0 cost. Then multiply by whatever quantity. If you get a question like that, we'll solve. All right, let's go and do our allocation. This is the allocation summary. Now, you need to make reference to the cells. What cell are you referring to? Cell AZ first. Don't forget we made the allocation to AZ. What is the quantity? We have 100. At what unit cost? 1 naira. They give us what? 100 times 1. 100. Look at where did you make allocation again? BX. BX, what is the quantity? 90. What is the cost? 3. Write it out. BX. Please, it's very, very important that you write them out so that the lecturer will know, okay, quantity 90, unit price 3. That gives us what? 270. Go to the next one. We have BY, 110.8. Quantity 110. BY, the quantity is 110. The price is 8. If you multiply it, it gives what? 880. What is the next one? We have CW, 88. CW, 80 as quantity, unit as what? 8. What will that give us? 640 naira. What is the next allocation after that? The next allocation is CY. 10 as quantity, 16 as unit price. CY. C, Y. What is the quantity?
Ten.
Great. I want to be sure I'm following. What is the unit price?
16.
16.
16 is the unit
What would that
price.
give us?
To give us 160.
What is the next allocation? Tell us the next allocation, please.
It's on to it. Can you turn to the page?
CZ.
Please, please have your material handy also. CZ. What is the
60
quantity?
and 5.
60 and 5. That will give us what?
60.
Please always
The price is 5.
always be consistent in sell quantity, unit price, and what value as you are writing it out. If you want to put unit price before quantity, be consistent when you are filling it. And if you want to do it this way, quantity before this, please be consistent. We know that 5 times 60 will give you the same thing as 60 times 5. But in case where the lecturer wants to give a marking scheme, that okay, let me know the total quantity, the unit price, or if you want to add everything or whatever, then this. Just be consistent. Then what will the total value give us? Add this together. What will it give us, please?
Quantity 450.
Everything together. Don't worry. I'm just saying you don't need to add up all the quantity or whatever. Just the total value. The quantity, even if it gives 450, that is to show you that's the total quantity of our demand and supply. That means you have made a correct allocation. Well, I'm interested in the total value.
The total value is 2,350.
2,350.
350.
So that is the total what cost. It will take us to transport 450 bags of cement at all these prices to all those locations. That if the lecturer asks you, okay, using least cost method, calculate the total cost of transporting from this factory to this project site. This is the solution. Don't forget, be mindful of your least cost. And any cost you have crossed out, please cross them out very well so that you can see them. You don't make use of them again in your next allocation. Any question before we go to northwest corner?
Please, we can go ahead.
All right, thank you. Now, we are still using the same question for the northwest corner. Now, instead of using the least cost, in this case, we are not making use of least cost. We are more particular about location. This is northwest corner method. Now, that takes us to our 4 cardinal points. Where do we have our north? We have our north here. We have our east. We have our south. And this is our west. That means our northwest is where? This end. Do you all agree with me?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
This is our northwest corner. That means the first northwest corner is here. Please, in this method, we are not considering cost. Whether the cost is the highest in the table, we are not particular about that. We are particular about a location. For instance, I said, okay, take these goods to Maduguri. Look at your compacts. Take any northwestern corner or side of the nation to reach Maduguri. He may argue that there's if you take through if you take a particular route, it will cost us only 8 naira now, or 5 naira. Why are we considering where we are going to spend 12 naira? That is where I want you to consider. We are not considering cost here. We are particular about what? A corner. This is the first northwest corner, followed by this, followed by this, followed by this, followed by this. That means it goes like this, like this, like this. So you start like this, go this way, go this way. If you are filling the allocation,
Like now, we are not seeing.
We can't see how you.
See what we are pointing, please.
the arrow,
We cannot see. No.
I mean the first next northwest corner is this point. Can you see my arrow?
On 4.
Yes, AW is the first northwest corner, followed by this, followed by this, followed by this. After you have made all the allocations up, come this way, come this way, come this way, come this way. Finish, come this way, come this way, come this way, come this way. That is northwest corner. We are not considering cost here, but we are considering what? Northwest corner. So let me take this off. All right, the first northwest corner is AW, this point. You need to now consider the quantity at the demand side and the quantity at the supply side. Which one is lower?
Demand side.
Which is 80. So that means we allocate what? 80 here. This demand already sorted. Nothing. The supply side, we have supplied 80 out of 100. We are looking for who to buy the remaining 20. The next northwest corner is AX. Demand is 90, supply is 20. What will the best get?
20.
We allocate 20. Please, I hope we all understand why we are allocating the lower one. This is 7 left. Don't forget that we have, this is 80 plus 20. That makes it what? 100. That allocation is gone. AYAZ, nothing to allocate to them. That takes us to the next northwest, which is supposed to be BW, but BW is already gone with what? The demand here, the first allocation. That means this point is what? Useless. We move to the next one. 70 and 200. What are we going to allocate?
70.
Guess
70.
This is out. This is out. 70 out of 200 gives us 130.
What that?
The next allocation is between 120 and 130. You guess what?
120.
120. This is out. We have allocated 120 out of 130. We are left with 10. All right. So what is the next one?
BZ.
BZ. That means 160 and 10. What are we going to allocate? We allocate 10. This is out. This is 150. This is supposed to be the next northwest corner, but out. This one is also out. This is also out. So we are left with what? CZ. Can you see the supply? See the demand?
Yeah.
150, 150. So we have no choice but to allocate the 150. This is 0, 0. I see that this is more straightforward.
I prefer this one now.
Well, it depends on what the lecturer wants anyway.
This is straightforward.
So let's now go and bring a summary, allocation summary out. So the first cell is
Yes,
what? AW. What is the quantity? 80 at what price? You have forgotten, no? Nobody is writing, Abby. Nobody is writing.
I'm writing.
You are going to submit your note after this class. So.
error.
All right, you can see AW84. You can see it. Then the next allocation is what? AX. That is 20 to 7. That is 140. All right, tell me the next allocation.
BY.
BY.
BX.
BX.
DX, sorry.
X.
X.
When you are doing this in the exam, be mindful. Someone is asking this, you tell the person you are coming, you are doing something. Okay, the person understand. Okay, what is the quantity?
70.
70.
The price is 3.
What's the price?
3.
3.
Okay, that gives us 210. The next one?
BY.
BY.
BY, okay. Quantity and unit price.
120. 128.
So what would that give us?
920.
960.
The next one?
BZ. Quantity 10, price 8. That's 80.
What's the next one?
CZ.
CZ.
As 150 and what?
5.
750.
That's all.
So what's the total?
2,460.
2,460. Sorry. 2,460. Which is higher than the other one. The earlier solution gave us 2,350, which is they're using the least cost. But this gives us higher figure, 2,460. All right, any question on this before we proceed?
I have a question.
All right, I'll too.
Okay, does the question even ask us to minimize cost or maximize profit? I'm not sure I got that.
Let's go and look at the question.
Then another thing in my mind is, if we are minimizing costs, then definitely we maximize profit. Navi, is it not vice versa?
Of course, of course.
Oh, he has not gotten to that level now.
All right. The question is to minimize. I think the table below represents the cost of transporting a unit or bag of cement from each of the factory to each project site. That is a minimization question anyway. Present the cost, so it's minimization.
Okay.
All right. Any question on this before we proceed? All right, let's move to Vogel, which is the third method under initial allocation. Call it Vogel Approximation, which is what? VAM. All right. Now, please, you have to also be mindful here, because I remembered like 3 or 2 sets ago when we are taking this Vogel tutorial. I say, no, this Vogel is this, is that. Well, no, it's not coming out in exam. Lo and behold, it came out like that. He might just said they should do Vogel. Before then, he has been consistent in giving them least scores, northwest corner. But that particular year, he decided to bring Vogel out. So whatever we need to do, we have to do it. Now, Vogel approximation. I said something the other time that when they were introducing something to us, the Vogel, they said greedy method or Vogel, right? I want to take us back to here. They say what? Greedy method or VAM. Greedy method is presented as what? Least cost or lowest cost. So that means invariably for them to have 2 things in common, that means they have least cost in common. That means Vogel also what? Makes use of least cost. So have that in mind. That is also your allocation is going to be based on least cost, the lowest cost. That is what your allocation under Vogel is going to make use of. So get that. Now let's go. But before we make allocation using this Vogel least cost, we need to do some iteration. We need to perform some surgical operation before we allocate. The first step, though we have it in the notes, but we try to also summarize what we have in the notes. It's telling us that the number 1 step is to identify the 2 least costs, 2 lowest costs in each row and each column. Under factory A, what is the least cost?
1.
Followed by what? 4. Calculate the difference between the 2.
3.
So that is the first step. That means we should what? Take difference of the 2 least costs. We have done that. We have said 1 and 4. That means 1 and 4. We have done the difference. For B, that means you are going to calculate the difference for all of the column, all of the row items. That is the first step. Factory B, what are the 2 least costs?
3 and 8.
The difference?
5.
C, what are the 2 least costs?
5 and 8.
5 and 8. So the difference is also what?
3.
Come to the column side. Under W, we have 4 and 8. The difference is 4.
Yes.
X, 7 and 3. The difference is what? 4 also.
4.
For Y, we have 7 and 8. The difference is 1.
1.
For Z, we have 1 and 5. The difference is what?
5. 4.
4. Now, step number 2 is telling us that
Sorry, I not. Hello, sir.
And
I don't understand where we have all those 3, 5, and 3. I don't understand how we came about them.
All right, let me do a recap. For Vogel, Vogel is also going to make use of least cost to allocate, like what we have under least cost method. But before we go ahead to use least cost, we are going to perform some iteration. And what do I mean by this? We have some steps to follow. The number 1 step says what? Calculate the difference between the 2 least costs in each row and each column. Madam, in row A, what are the 2 least costs that we have there? The 2 least costs.
1 and 4.
What is the difference between the two?
3.
For B, we have 3 and 8. What is the difference? Take 3 out of
5.
8, we have 5. For C, we have 5 and 8. What is the difference?
3.
So that is for the what? Row. For the column, that means coming by WXYZ. Do the same thing. 4 and 8, 4. 3 and 7, 4. 7 and 8, 1. 1 and 5, 4. Are you there?
Yes, it's
So
clear
that is
now.
what we are
Thank you.
Step number 2 now says, out of all these differences that you have, identify the highest. What is the highest that we have in all these 3, 5, 3, 4, 4, 1, 4?
5.
5 is the highest. So that means is this highest that we want to work with. Let me. That 5 is what we want to consider. Now say, okay, that 5, that highest difference, trace it to its column or its row. It belongs to a row, not column, right?
Yes.
Column with head to toe. Row is what? Left to right. It belongs to a row. Row B. You agree with me?
Yes.
What is the least cost in that row?
3.
So that means we are allocating using this what? 3. Can you see that we are still making use of the least cost to allocate? It's just that before we get to the least cost, we have to first do parabolate round before we arrive. That is the law. Now, before we make allocation, don't forget the rules. We have 90 under the demand, under the supply.
Sorry.
What are we going to allocate?
Sorry, please, I want to ask a question.
All right.
I didn't get how you got this 4414. I was writing this thing down, please.
All right. Step 1 says identify the 2 least costs in each row and in each column. Row A, tell me the 2 least costs that we have there.
Row A, it's 4 and 1.
4 and 1. What is the difference between the 2?
3.
That's the 3 that we have there. For row B, we do the same thing, which is we are considering 3 and 8. The difference is 5. C, we are considering 8 and 5. The difference is 3. Come to the column side, do the same thing.
Okay. I've gotten it. Thank you.
Step number 2 now says, out of all these differences, 3, 5, 3, 4, 4, 1, 4, which one is the highest? That is the 5 that we have here. That 5, now trace it to its row, because the highest number can be on the column side. It depends on where you have the highest number. But in this first one, we have the highest number here, which is 5. That 5 belongs to row B. In that row, what is the least cost in that row?
3.
So now we want to make allocation. We have 90 as the demand. We have 200 as the supply. What is he going to get? Who is that person? Oh yeah, tell me which allocation. What quantity are we going to allocate?
90.
Huh?
90.
90.
All right, thank you. We allocate 90. We have allocated that out. This 90 is 0. That means by the time we get here, we don't no difference to calculate. You go by the step all over again to do the next allocation. If you look at row A, that 7 is gone. 7 under X is gone. So that means not relevant to our difference again. The 2 lowest is what? Still 4 and 1. What is the difference?
3.
Sorry, please. I don't understand how we got the 90.
The rule of allocate our allocation is identify the quantity at the supply end and the quantity at the demand end. Which one is lower? Allocate the lower quantity. So our
Okay, so
demand
90 and 200.
yes. Yes. Now, it will be what is
But I'm sorry. I think that people are like that also.
Please mute your mic so that we don't disturb others. All right, thank you. So what is the difference in Ruby? Huh?
4.
4. So don't say it's 8 and 8. So 8 and 8 are still the same. So it's 8 and 12. That gives us what? 4. For here we have 5 and 8. The difference will be what?
I have a question.
Right. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I don't mean to take us back, but just very quickly. Okay, we selected 5, so we got the lowest to get that theory. Then we did our calculation. So my question is this: who is that now? The person should mute his mic. Hello.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so this 5 that we selected, did we consider the ones down, this 4414?
Yes.
Or just that?
Yes.
Okay, we consider that one to select the highest.
Yes.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. After the 5, take the 5 to where it belongs to, whether it's on the column.
I will put the volume.
Hello, Chieme, Chinedu. Can you please mute your mics?
All right. Now, to make our allocation, this 5, take it to its row. It belongs to this row B. This row B, identify the least cost. I told you that VAM also makes use of least cost, which is the lowest cost. But before we arrive at this lowest cost, look at what we first did. All this one to identify before we know that, okay, this is the least cost we want to identify with. We have said, okay, 3 is the least cost. Consider the what? Compare the quantity on the demand side and the quantity on the demand, on the supply, which is 290. Give the lower quantity. That's what we have been doing since morning. The lower quantity is what? 90. We allocate 90 here. 90 has gone for the demand. Meanwhile, the supply, thank you. We need to do what? Please and please. It's very, very important. What is the balance? The balance is
160.
Is it 160? No, it's
110.
110. When you take 90 out of 100, please, it's very, very important.
110.
When you are doing Vogel in exam, if someone is calling you, tell the person you are doing Vogel, the person will understand. It's true. And when we get to stepping stone, once the person knows that you are doing stepping stone, the person will not disturb you. Just tell me once we are through, let me know. But once you mix a step or you miscalculate something like this, it's error. All right, the difference is 110 now. Then we go by the same step all over before we make the next allocation. Once you make the next allocation, you go and find the difference again before you make the next allocation, all through until you finish all the 450. So we have done this. Now, 4 and 8, what is the difference?
4.
We have made the 90 allocation here, so we don't need to calculate any difference here.
So, sorry, please. I have a question, please.
All right, go ahead.
Please, when you were allocating for cell Y and Z, okay. I mean, I'm talking about factory B.
Okay.
Where you have the 2 least costs, you have a tie there, 8.
Yes.
And you said, in comparing the two, the in trying to get the difference between the highest and the least cost there, you said we should take 8 and 12. Why not 8 and 8 here? Is it because we are having a tie there?
No, they are the same now. 8 and 8 are the same 8 now.
Okay.
No, sir, they are the same 8. We are looking at the least cost, 2 least costs. 8 and 8, they are the same. So you can't tell the other, if you pick one 8 and pick the other 8, you are saying that one first 8 is lower than the other 8. They are not. They are the same 8, 8.
Okay. Okay.
So that means
thank you.
Take ahead the next. So here now, 7 and 8. The difference is what? 1. What is the difference under Z?
Still 4.
Step number 2 says we should identify the highest in all these differences. What will be the highest there now? Out of all these 3, 4, 3, 4, 1, 4, what will be the highest?
4. We have 3, 4.
4.
But which
we have a tie there also.
Oh.
Now, what we need to do here, the law says take those figures, those tied whatever, 4 whatever, take them to where they belong to, whether by row or by column. Identify the one that has the least cost. Let's start with W. Under this W, what is the least cost? This 4 belongs to here. What is the least cost here?
4.
4. That means we have identified that it's 4 here. This 4, what is the least cost here?
7.
No. The 4 is under Z.
Sorry.
We can't see where you are pointing.
1.
So I'm looking at this 4. We take this 4 where it belongs. So it belongs to Z. What is the least cost? 1.
It should be 1.
1.
That means
no 1.
We already have 4 under here. We have 1 here. This is the third 4. Let's take the third 4 to where it belongs. So what is the least cost there?
We have 8.
8.
That is
8.
That means we have identified 3 least costs. 4, 1, 8. Out of these 3, which one is the least?
1.
Where does that one belong to?
AZ.
So that means this is the one we allocate first. That means we pick this 4. Do you understand that?
Sorry, I don't understand. I didn't get the explanation.
All right. Now, you know how we arrive at the 4, 4, 4.
Yes,
No.
yes.
All right. Don't forget the first step that we did. We had 3, 5, 3. Under here, we have 4, 4, 1, 4.
Yes.
That is step number 1. Step 2 says identify the highest of all these differences. And easily we are able to identify 5 because 5 is higher than 3, is higher than 4, is higher than 1.
4.
Right?
Yes.
That's how we made this. We went through the same step 1 to get all these 3, 4, 3, 4. We have made all this allocation. We don't need it. 1, 4. Now we should identify the highest of all the differences. That means 4 is the highest because it's higher than 3 and 1. But in this case, we have 3 in 4. We have 4 in 3 places. There's a 4 here. There's a 4 here. There's a 4 here. Abby?
Yes.
And answer that means we have a tie. We don't know which of these 3 4s we should use. How to now break it? The law says that we should take each of the 4s, take them to where they belong to, whether they belong to a row or a column. Identify the least cost. Let's look at this 4. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
This 4.
Can see your cursor.
We can see it too.
We can see it.
This 4.
The cursor is under CP2.
Is under CP2.
CP2.
Now, that means that 4 belongs to that W. Right?
Yes.
What is the least cost? Out of 4, 12, 8. What is the least cost?
4.
4. That means we have identified that, okay, there is a 4, which is the least 4 here. There's this 4 also. Take this 4 to where it belongs. So what is the least cost there?
1.
1. So that means we also identify a least cost. This is the third 4. This third 4, take it to where it belongs to. That means we have 8, 8, 12. What is the least cost?
8.
8. Now, out of this, that means we'll be able to identify a 4, 1, and what? 8.
8.
Out of these 3, which one is the least?
1.
1. So that means we have identified that 1 is the least. Where does that 1 belong to? Which of the 4?
Once the 1 at CP2.
Thank you. Which is Z, because we have 2 at the CP. Can you see?
Yes.
So it's under Z, the one that belongs to this place. Abi?
Yes.
Yes.
So that means we are picking these 4 first. So these 4. And the law says that once you have identified that highest element, take it to its row or column. Pick the least cost there. That means the least cost will still be what? Right?
1.
The least cost 1.
1. Now, to make our allocation, we have 160 and we have 100. Because that one belongs to AZ. A in the row, Z in the column. We have 100 as supply. Demand is 160. What are we going to allocate?
100.
100, which is quantity. So that means out of 160, this man already has 100. So 60 is the balance. This man has allocated the whole 100 is 0. Close out every other thing. He wants to sell 100 bags. He has already sold it. There's nothing to sell again. Go again by the differences. Here, we have made the whole allocation. There's nothing here again. Here, we still have 110 to allocate. Calculate the difference.
Four.
It's still the 4, which is 8 and 12. 4. Here, we have 5, 16, and 8.
3.
3.
Come to this side. Don't forget that this 4 has gone with this row A. We are left with 12 and 8. What's the difference?
4.
Don't forget what gave us this 4 and 4 earlier was 8 and 4, not 12 and 8.
Yes.
So here, no allocation. We have 8. Before we had 8 and 1. Now we have 7 has gone. So we are left with 8 and 16. What is 16. The difference?
8.
Here, what is the difference?
3.
So identify the highest of all these differences. What is the highest?
8.
That means we are taking this 8. Take this 8 to its row or its column. What is the least cost there?
8.
That means we are considering this 8, right?
Yes.
Now, the 8 belongs to BY. Under the supply, we have 110. Under the demand, we have 60. What is he going to get?
60.
120, not 60.
110.
We allocate
It's 120. It's BY we allocate.
Under the demand is 120.
It's BY.
It's BY. It's BY. That means 120 and 110. What is he going to get?
110.
To get 110.
Thank you for
110.
110. That means this is out. We have allocated the whole 110. Out of 120, the balance is 10, right?
10.
Yes.
We go over it again. So let me write this. I don't know. And when you get to stepping stone, the aha, not to aha. All right, step 3. The next step again is what? This is already out. We have already done the whole allocation here, out. We are still here. What is the difference here? 8 and, that means 8 and 5.
8 and 5.
Come to this side, we have 4 and 8 and 12.
4.
This is already gone.
Yeah.
Here we have what?
Sorry, sir. Are we considering the 12? Considering that the supply is 0. Are we supposed to
we're
consider
not
that 12?
considering it to sorry you
So
see.
it should be 8.
That's why I said once you are doing it immediately, don't let anybody say, sister, look at me. Tell them you are doing Vogel. All right, what is the list here?
16.
That is 16. Because this 8, we have allocated it. This Z, this 7 is also gone. We are left with 16. What is the highest?
16.
So that means we are picking this thing. And it belongs to where? It belongs to this side. What is the least cost there?
Sorry, we didn't calculate for Z now.
For what?
For Z.
We didn't calculate for Z.
Okay, what's the least cost here?
That should be 5. That should be 5.
All right, so that means 16 is the highest.
Yes.
So that means we are taking that 16 to where it belongs to. So what is the least cost?
16.
The
16.
Now we have 10 as the demand. We have at the supply. What is he going to get?
10.
10.
So he gets 10. This is what? Out.
0.
This is what? 140. 140. Okay. Now let's go again. Wow. Out. Abi?
Yeah, we have gone. No more going.
This is out.
There's more.
This is also out, right?
Yes.
What is the list here? We are different. We have 8 and 5.
3.
Oh, sorry.
This is 8. This is also gone. This is also gone, right?
5.
5. What is the highest?
8.
We pick this 8. We take it to the column. What is the least cost? Which is still 8. Because 4 and 12 gone. 8. The supply is 140. The demand is 80. What's he going to get?
80.
This is out. 80. 140 take 80. So we have 60. We'll go by it again. This will now be RP6. So there's RP6 here. I'll be a 6. All right. What is the difference here? Gone. What do you have here?
5.
So here, gone. What do you have?
Gone. 5.
5. You have 5 on both sides. It can decide to come to this 5. Because of space, let's take this 5 because they all have 5. If you go by the highest, it's 5, 5. So let's pick this 5. If you pick this 5, take it to the table. What is the least cost?
5.
60.
If you come by these two, it's that same 5 that will be there. So whether you like it or not, it's going to get, because we have 60 both sides.
Yeah.
That's all. Now let's write the allocation.
Allocation.
We have to end up with 0.
Yes. That means you have to allocate everything. You want to sell products. Until you sell everything finished, you are still not missing. Because some people are still in demand of your product and you have the product in your store. All you need to do is to send to them. You don't audit. It's only in petrol that you order. You know that price will speculative. Tomorrow it can be whatever. God will help us. All right. So let's write out. Please look at where we made those allocations. We have AZ 101. So write the cell out. All right. Call them out for me.
BX.
What's the cost?
93.
Okay.
BY.
110.
188. 110. CW.
88.
Huh?
88.
Okay.
CY.
CY.
1016.
1016.
Okay.
CZ.
CZ.
65.
What was the total?
$2,350.
Is it different from the least cost method? The figure, total cost that we have here now.
It's the same.
It's the same. That is why if you look at the formula when we are reading the note, they say what? Greedy method or VAM. Because they both make use of the least cost. It's just that in VAM, before we can make use of the least cost, we first have to do some surgery, some iteration, this one to determine the least cost. But at the end of the day, you see that we still have to allocate to that AZ, BX, BY, CW, CY, CZ. You can see it.
Yeah, and even same allocations.
Yes, the same allocation. All right, any question?
More.
I think we can go ahead.
All right, any other person, please?
Please, can we go to the second slide so I get how we got the cell?
This one, right?
Yes. So please, how do we get the cell and the other one? AZ is 100. So how did we get the multiplying effect?
We have under B, how many allocation do we have? We have allocation to BX, that is 90 times this 3. Then we have BY, this one.
Hello, please, can you hear me?
I can hear you, that's what I'm explaining. Can you hear me now?
Please, how do we get the multiplying effect? I know AC is 100. 100 multiplied by what? How did you get it?
The cost. No, they gave us the cost of moving from one place to the other. You can look at the cost.
AC is 1.
Yes. 90 times 3. 110 times 8. Are you there?
No, sir.
Were you around when we did the first two methods? That's least cost. And
no, I was not.
Oh.
No.
Oh. All right. Let me go back and see those ones. See, those ones are more clearer compared to.
I think we can just explain it to her now.
All right.
I think it's not, there's nothing
Okay,
hard about it.
look at what I have on the screen. Can you see that?
Okay. Yes.
Can you see 80 and 4?
Yes, I can.
You can see 20 and 7.
Yes.
Then this 70 and this 3.
Yes.
So this is the quantity. Why this small it is the cost.
Okay.
This is the quantity and this is the cost. So we just brought them out, knowing which cell do they belong to. Cell AW, we have 80 and 4. Let me show you. This is cell AW. Look at the 80, look at the 4.
Okay.
So all we need to do is just to multiply them together.
All right.
This is A, B, this is B, this is C. Total value is now B times C. So that's the same thing we did for Vogel. It's just that because of, look at the table, it's somehow not tidy. But it's the same thing. We brought the 101 out. Then this is 90 and 3, 110 and 8, then 80 and 8, 10 and 16.
16.
We have 60 and 5. So that's the same thing we brought out.
Okay. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Okay.
So any other question? Any other question, please? Hello.
Maybe we can go ahead, sir.
All right. Okay, that is for the initial solution. We said apart from initial solution, we have what we call optimal solution. We have done the initial solution using the 3 methods. And we have seen that under the least cost, we have 2,350. Now, the optimal solution is telling us that is it possible for us to reduce this cost further? For instance, in the office, you can do a cost analysis, cost benefit analysis, say it will cost us so, whatever. You say, I know this cost. Why will you tell me that I'm going to make expenses of so? Can we reduce the expenses further? Is it possible for me? Because at the point where you are reducing one, revenue is going up. They tell you that, can we reduce this expenses or cost? Can we cut it down? Can we reduce? But nobody wants to reduce profits. It's only if they want to, the issue of tax that you have to, manage this round, but at least cost is what we want to reduce here. So can we reduce it further? That is what optimal solution is talking about. Then we have 2 methods of that optimal solution. Let me take us back to the notes. Now we have 2 methods. Look at it, what we have on my screen. You can see we have stepping stone. Test for optimality, solution for optimality using either stepping stone method or the modified distribution method, which is what we call MODI.
Sir, please, sorry, what about step 3 and 4? Have we done that?
This is to calculate the cost, profit in the case of maximization of implementing the solution, which is what we have just done. In this case, is what? To minimize costs. I told you that the question can either be to minimize costs or to maximize profits. Do you understand it now?
Yes, sir. So what about
you can control? That's what we have just done. This number 4 now. Now, number 3 is telling us that we should test the initial allocation for degeneracy. To test for degeneracy is telling us that it's telling us to check whether the number of row plus number of column is equal to number of allocation. Are you seeing my note? Let me write it very well. To test for degeneracy is telling us check if the number of column plus number of row is equal to number of who is that? Please, can you see what I have on the screen? Can you see it, please?
Yes, sir.
It's telling us to check if the number of row.
Oh yeah, Emmanuel, please mute your mic.
It's telling us to check if the number of column plus number of row is equal to the number of allocation we made. That's how to test for degeneracy. Now, let's look at the number of our column. How many columns do you have in this question? Columns are from head to toe. Don't forget, you know how the total column to it, you know how the total whatever or row. You know how those one to it. So how many columns do you have in this question?
3.
Column, we have 4. W, X, Y, Z. That is the column, head to toe. Right?
I thought that's right to left.
3 and 4.
Column is from head to toe.
Rule is for
1, 2, 3, 4. Because column comes like this: up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So we have 4. How many rows do we have? Row 1, row 2, row 3.
3 rows.
Is it equal to the minus 1? The formula, that's the formula. Number of column plus number of row minus 1 equal to number of allocation. So 7 minus 1, what will it give us? Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we
Yes,
can, sir.
All right.
yes, sir.
It's telling us that the formula is number of column plus number of row.
You cannot see your slide again.
All right. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
The formula to test for the degeneracy, the formula is number of column plus number of row minus 1. Is it equal to the number of allocation or not? That's what we want to test for. And our number of columns, we have 4 columns, 3 rows. That is 4 plus 3 minus 1. That gives us 6. How many allocations did we make? Check the allocation. This is 1, 2, 3,
6,
5, 6. That is 6. So the way it is now, do we say this degenerate or do not degenerate?
It degenerates.
This is do not degenerate. So if our equation is equal to what we have here, that means this is not do not degenerate. But if it is not equal to our allocation, then at that point we say what? The equation or the question do degenerate. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So wait. Hello?
Yes, please.
For instance, if what we have here, number of column plus number of row minus 1, if is it equal to number of allocation. Now, for instance, if our allocation, we want to assume, this our allocation is 6. But in case we have 4 plus 3 minus 1, it's supposed to be 6, but we have 1. So that means not equal to what? Number of allocation. Instead of having 6, we have only what? 5. It's not equal to number of allocation. At this point, we say what? This equation what? Do degenerate. So that's just formula, just for you to test whether what you have done when you put that equation together will be equal to your allocation. And if it is not equal, you say what? This equation do not degenerate. They may want to ask you in an exam, in theory, that what do you understand by degeneracy? Say, okay, we simply, when the number of column in addition to the number of row less minus 1 equal to number of allocation, or if it's not equal to, if it is equal to the number of allocation, you say the equation do not degenerate. But if it is not equal to the number of allocation, the equation is what? Degenerate. That's what how you answer it.
Please, I have a question. What of if the number is more than the number of allocation?
Yes, that one to do degenerate, because it has to be equal to. If it is not equal to, whether it's more than or less than, that was do degenerate. So you see, it can here now. If our allocation, instead of having 7, if our allocation is, if our number of allocation is 7, this one also what? Do not do what? Degenerate. Because it's not equal to 6. And the formula is 6. And we are not getting 6 allocation. So you see that is lower than 6 or more than 6. And if your allocation, if the formula is saying you are supposed to get 10 allocations, for instance, if it is 6 plus 5, if the number of column is 6, number of row is 5, that is 6 plus 5 minus 1. That would be what? 10. So that means your allocation is supposed to be 10. You have 11 allocation, or you have less than 10 allocation. So at that point, is what we are talking about. But if what you are supposed to have is what the formula says you are supposed to have, so that means it generates. All right, any question? So we go to stepping stone algorithm, which is the optimization. Are you there?
Chineye, please put off the mic.
All right, at this juncture, we'll have to say thank you for your time. Wow, this is to 3 already. Hello.
I have a question before we go.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Please, I have a question.
Okay, let's Mr. Emisoluwa asks.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for this wonderful lecture. First,
okay.
So enlightening. So now I asked a question before that, like what was the question asking us to do? So you went back to the question and you said we are minimizing costs, but then the question did not state that. So just for exam purpose, how did you know so that we can know what to do?
Now, if you look at it, maybe I didn't finish the question, or it's the lower part. Then the table to the allocation below. Sorry. So in the exam, you okay? Let me go to continuation of. And you calculate the cost of implementing table 1. Okay. But it will definitely show what to do anyway. You will know from the question that this is minimization. To minimize cost or minimize time. It will definitely state, but this is minimization because they are talking about cost mostly. If it is profit, they will have told you that, okay, what will be the maximum profit or to maximize revenue or calculate the maximum revenue. No, they said we should calculate the cost there.
Okay.
Ahead, they will tell you, okay, to a maximum, what will be the maximum revenue? What will be the profit, whatever. So they will be mentioning profit. You know that this is your gain. You know that this is maximization.
Okay.
Yes. So majorly, if you go and look at minimization, demand over that. I'm with you.
So I also have a question.
All right.
When we are doing the list method and the other method that we did, we only looked at allocated cells. What of unallocated cells?
Yes,
because
the unallocated cell has to do with our stepping stone. By the time you want to now maximize. Now, what stepping stone or the optimality is telling you that instead of this our 2,350, can we still reduce it further to maybe 2,003 or even 2,000? And we will still carry the total 450 bags. Now, stepping stone is not telling you that making use of unallocated cells. If you make use of unallocated cells, that means instead of you going through Lagos Ibadan to get to Ibadan, what about if you pass through Ikorodu to Ijebu-Ode? You know, initially we didn't pass through that route. Now, I now tell you, okay, pass through that route. Are we still going to spend 2,350? If you pass through that route, by the time we do the calculation, we still arrive at 2,350. We now know that whether you pass through Lagos, Ibadan, or you go through Ikorodu, Ijebu-Ode to Ibadan, you cannot spend anything less than 2,350. That means making use of what? Unallocated cells. How many unallocated cells do we have in this question? Look at it now. We have how many? We have AY, AZ, BW, we have CW, CX, 6. So let us pass through those 6 areas. Let us pass through those 6 areas. Are we still going to get the same cost? That is what optimality is telling you.
Okay, so can I ask my question now?
All right.
Okay, my question is on the degeneracy that you made mention of. When we're calculating it, are we using the allocation summary? Is it just the allocation summary that we use to calculate the degeneracy?
Yes, it's the number of allocation that you have.
No, I mean the table.
Yes, you can use the table. You know,
summary.
But this came from what? What we have in this table. You can see.
Okay, we use this one, not the other allocation
you can use
summary.
that one. They are the same thing. It's just what we have in this table. Look at AZ. We have AZ.
Okay.
We have BS. So it's everything that we have here. It's just that instead of pulling a user and user together, we just, okay, let's able make it neat. Let's bring it out here like this so that we can easily see.
But from here, we have the number of columns we have here that is actually, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. How do we get the 3?
Which 3?
3 rows.
And now look at
number of columns
look
and
at
number
the
of
table.
rows.
Can you see your columns start from W to Z? Column W1, column X2, column Y3, column Z4. That's
okay.
If you look at row, your row is left to right. A, B, C, 3 of them, minus 1.
Okay.
So is it equal to your number of allocation or it's not equal?
Okay. Okay, I get it now.
All right. I think that is all we'll take for today.
Yes, sir, please, I would like to know when we are bringing prestige to the mainland, because the bulk of the issue we're having is going to, where's that area again? 7 Up is quite far, and we have been saying, can prestige at least come to a central area where we can easily access for a physical tutorial? I would like you guys to please consider the request, so bringing it down to a more central area where people can easily access.